I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven. We're here at the Metals Investor Forum in Toronto on the 29th of February. Happy Leap Day.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hadn't realized it was Leap Day, but thanks for that, Gwen.
It is. This is Peter Akerley of Erdene Resource Development, and we chatted back in January, and since then, there's been some interesting advances on your exploration front. You came out with some drill results up at Altan Nar, which is north of the project where you're pushing towards a feasibility study, the Bayan Khundii project. And I think that, I've always been interested in the exploration side of this story because you're in such an underexplored terrain. But that probably, turned some focus in the market back to the exploration side,
I think that's right.
Deservedly so. So do you want to just paint that picture a bit? It's not just Altan Nar.
Absolutely. So over the past 2 years, we really were focused on drilling off and getting Bayan Khundii at a point where we could move towards feasibility.
Yeah.
And that's where it is today. It's moving through that feasibility study.
And that's actually due out very soon.
That's right, mid this year. So that component is living a life of its own. We have a good team. The engineers are taking care of that. I have an exploration team who have been excellent. They've provided us with 3 deposit discoveries over the last several years. But getting them turned back away from infill drilling to thinking about the upside elsewhere in the district has happened over the last several months. And that began with a compilation of the Alton ARS area, which I'll come back to. It then moved into doing some drilling around a concept we had of continuing the high grade at Altan Nar in the boiling zone, and that worked out very well for us. And also we have the area around the pit at Bayan Khundii where we did some step-out drilling back in September, which has shown a 0.5 kilometer potential extension to the south.
Right.
So 3 really exciting areas that we now have in front of us that we're building upon to add ounces as we move forward.
Yeah, for sure. And adding ounces is important for a couple reasons. The mine life defined at Bayan Khundii is 7 years, which is good, but everybody likes a little bit longer than that. So adding ounces is important for that. Yeah. And just demonstrating the scale potential that there is in this super underexplored terrain, right?
That's right.
Some companies less likely to move in for a small project, but they're much more likely to move in when they can see opportunity for this to keep giving.
That's right. I think we all have heard the numbers from the majors, the mid-tiers, and we're not in a place where we're thinking about M&A action at this point, but we all have to think about it in the future. And that sweet spot is to be, plus 100,000 ounces if you're high grade, probably plus 150 if you're on the low grade side, but getting up into that 2 to 4 million ounce window really gets you into that sweet spot. And we've had 7 of the top 15 gold mining companies either on site or in our data room, so we know where their thinking is. Our view has been it makes more sense for us to build a foundation with a high return gold mine, relatively simple, 60,000 ounces a year. At these gold prices generates $35 million US a year in free cash flow, and we're a 30 million cap company. So for us, it makes sense to limit dilution, get that up and running, and then come back and do aggressive exploring of these areas. Along the way, we'll bring them along. We'll be opportunistic if the opportunity presents itself to take some money to continue that exploration.
Sure, yeah.
But we'll just bring it along slowly, and that's proved to bear a lot of fruit with those 3 targets. Just with a limited amount of work, it's a testament to what's out there in the Khundii district.
So let's go back to that drill result that you put out at Altan Nar. Altan Nar is obviously an area that you've known about for some time.
Yes. So Altan Nar was the area that we first made the discovery of the district back in 2011, 2012. We brought that along slowly, but we discovered Bayan Khundii, which really redirected all of our exploration in 2017 to that target and left Altan Nar sitting in isolation, more or less. But just as we had left that, we had hit a very significant intersection based on a structural intersection concept that provided over 100 meters of 10 grams of gold. That wasn't necessarily true width, but it did show us that there's a very high-grade zone in the center of that deposit. Yeah. Using further science interpretation, we determined that to be a boiling zone. Our concept was that was a boiling zone running through the center of the deposit. So when we went back just a month or 2 ago, we went and tested that boiling zone horizon. And that's where we hit 7 meters of 45 grams and announced that in January, but also showed there's a number of open areas along that trend. That's a 600-meter long deposit where you really need to be targeting in on that boiling zone horizon, which has yet to be tested. So that not only opened up this discovery zone at Altan Nar. Discovery zone is one of 18 targets. So we can go back in with this targeted approach, looking for textures, using our science to target that boiling zone horizon, which could really be an eye-opener for high-grade reserves at Altan Nar. which already has tremendous upside for growth because it hasn't been fully explored. So we're really excited about that opportunity.
And that's, I mean, we could go on for a while. I think the structural understanding that you developed at Bayan Khundii, which took a while, as these things do,
sure.
Has fed into this success. So that helped you understand Altan Nar, and that's leading you to new directions at Dark Horse, I'll call it, because I keep saying it wrong in Mongolian.
That's right. The Harmore Dark Horse discovery originated just late last year when we did some extensive rock chip sampling south of the Altan Nar fault. So we'd known about Altan Nar for a while, but we extended that up to 2 kilometers to the south, and we started to pick up samples that were running in excess of an ounce of gold in veins at surface. So we expanded the rock chip and the soil sampling and identified over a kilometer-long zone parallel to Altan Nar, but about a kilometer south.
Right.
That's now been modeled, extensive work's been done around that, and it looks exactly in terms of structural architecture like Bayan Khundii deposit.
Right.
And all the other things that you want to see complementing that, whether it's the geochem, the geophysics, the structural interpretation, they're all coming together where we probably have our best upside target we've had since we discovered Bayan Khundii at Harmore, and undrilled. And interestingly, when we drilled at Altan Nar, we had a couple holes south of that, 300 meters from this target, but it hit 70 grams per ton over 2 meters, 23 grams per ton over 2 meters within 50 meters of surface. So it's really a tremendous upside now in 3 areas, as I mentioned, Altan Nar, Harmore, and around the mine site at Bayan Khundii.
I mean, it's super fun to be talking about exploration again. The focus on getting, Bayan Khundii through feasibility, super important. This is important to demonstrate that how functional Mongolia is, and to demonstrate that this asset is worth turning into a mine. I agree with all that. But it's really fun to be talking about exploration again.
Oh, it sure is, yeah. I spent 20 years of my life exploring a country to get it down to a district-scale discovery, and it's in front of us now. It's already over 1 million ounces. We can have visibility on 2, but what could this be? I have a vision this can be much larger than what we think today.
Well, it's exciting times. Thanks so much for coming by to give us the update.
Thanks for having me.